Hi there, I'm Candace Dickinson, licensed mental health clinician and professional counselor, certified narcissistic abuse treatment clinician in Massachusetts, Florida, Utah, and Virginia. And today we're going to be talking about 10 things you need to know about survivors who have endured narcissistic abuse. Number one, the abuse can come from anyone in your life. So on one hand, you can have this from a parent, a partner, teacher, friend, or even religious leader. Research more often speaks about the partner. When we talk about this systemically, it's are often in religious groups or political structures. So it's crucial to recognize that abuse from people who have narcissistic personality disorder, I'm going to call that NPD from now on, is not limited to a partnership or parenthood. Number two, the survivor wasn't always treated that way. They weren't always treated with dismissal, with the discarding, with the nagging tools. In the beginning, they were often given this extreme amount of love. They were told they were worthwhile and loved. They were the ones who could do the job, or they were the only person who made their partner feel loved. So it's essential to recognize that they weren't always treated poorly, and survivors hold on to that. Number three, those who've experienced this are often high value. And when someone has NPD, they're looking for a friend or a partner that's often going to mimic that same perceived value. So we see this through words such as narcissistic supply, but it's also important to recognize that survivors are often loving, intelligent, and motivated. It's often my job to support my clients in recognizing how amazing they are. Number four, those who have experienced narcissistic abuse are not codependent. Someone who's codependent will fit into either two roles, the enabler or the dependent, but not working to change that dynamic. And when in a relationship with someone who has NPD, the survivor will often see the imbalance and they're working to try to change the relationship towards a healthy one. There's oftentimes these conversations that are very well known when working with someone who has NPD, where the survivor will ask for change, and the person with NPD will often wait out the change until it's not brought up anymore. It's called future faking. Number five, there are two strong personality traits that are actually really big in survivors. One is agreeableness. It's a trait to have increased empathy, love, and creativity. And the other trait is conscientiousness. That's not wanting to give up. It's wanting to endure, organize, plan, and make a way out of struggle. So we have these two superpowers. One, which is being able to feel the other's emotions and empathize with the other's pain. And the next is building endurance to manage difficult times because they see this version of the person with NPD that is whole and good. Number six, betrayal blindness. Betrayal isn't always infidelity. Infidelity can be a part of intimate partner relationships. However, we can also look at betrayal in a work setting where a boss promised you a promotion and gave it to someone else. Because of your superpowers, you may believe the other person was obviously better than you, or it might have been somebody else's decision. So we start to become blind to that betrayal and we start to believe that it's part of the landscape. To maintain these relationships, we often need to be blind to that betrayal. You want your relationship, job, or religious space to be okay, and you want it to stay in your life. Number seven, they experience a lot of self-doubt. Self-doubt during rupture can be a healthy way to manage healthy relationships. When the survivor's relationship starts to get unhealthy, they'll often seek outside support. They're going to therapy. They're being told that they're terrible and they're seeking ways to get better. On top of that, they might even be questioning if they're the abusive ones. The obvious answer to the outside world may be obviously not. However, things can get very twisted in survivors' heads. Am I having unreasonable expectations? Am I so full of myself that I think I deserve love and happiness right now? And that's where we start to see reality and thoughts collide. Number 8, survivors don't want to give up. Let's go back to conscientiousness tree. They want to endure. They want to keep going. They don't want to give up on the person. Survivors can see the person with NPD as who they can become and may say, I love the person. I know who they can become, rather than seeing the person for who they are in that moment. Questioning that can actually be really terrifying. So it's vital that we don't question the survivor's reality immediately, and that we do recognize when people are experiencing relationships with those who have NPD. They might need to be heard as well as given the option to give up. Number 9, therapists may call narcissistic abuse atypical trauma. This is based off of attachment wounds, and these can be formed in both childhood and adulthood. When we have someone we love, we don't want to let them go. Survivors start missing out on things that should have been there in healthy relationships, not just wounds that were never supposed to be there, such as financial, physical, or sexual abuse. Because a lot of this is psychological abuse, it's an atypical trauma. And based on current diagnostic criteria, does not meet the diagnosis for PTSD, even if their brain works similarly. A lot of people are misdiagnosed with depression, told they're codependent, or they're taught they're the problem, or ways to build more boundaries when those strategies won't necessarily help in these relationships. Number 10, leaving is not only a privilege, it can be dangerous. Sometimes when we break these relationships, the person with NPD can start to escalate and become more violent and abusive. It's incredibly important that someone who's in that relationship gets out safely rather than quickly. They also should be aware of post-separation abuse, a phenomenon where abuse can get worse after leaving. So survivors must understand the risk they may be taking by leaving. That's all for today. I hope you can continue to stay on here as we learn more about narcissistic abuse. Thank you and have a great day. Subscribe, hit that like button, and comment what struck you.